So, you want to know what class is best in PvP, but where do you start? In this one, I'm going to share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly with every class in PvP, both Magicka and Stamina, so do stick around. Hey guys, it's Dan, and welcome back to Unified Gaming. So first up, why am I doing this? Long story short, when I played this game years back, I just didn't know what was good. And I spent ages trying to learn, run into a few bumps on the road, as you can imagine. And I really wish someone would just go, Dan, this is the best, or this is good at that, and this is bad at this. And I've never seen anything to help give people that information. So a while back, I made some charts, and in this one, I've just updated them. I've checked them through my Discord. There's 800 people in there, and about 50 people volunteered to look at them. I've also shared them with other content creators like Is There No One Else, Nice Gaming, etc, etc. So just a big thanks to everyone that has checked these out. And as always, these are somewhat subjective, but the general consensus is that this is good enough to give you an idea of what you should be looking to do with each class and where they're good, where they're bad, so you can kind of build going from there. Also, I'd like to add that this is based on current builds that people use, and obviously metas are slightly different, so there's always a bit of salt to take with this. And I want to say a massive thanks to everybody that has liked, commented and subscribed on these videos. It really helps. And more importantly, a big thanks to all the people on Patreon who help make these videos possible. But what are we doing? Well, first up we have Magicka Sorcerer. And I've chosen this because it's quite a popular class and it really kind of helps just show the good and the bad really clearly. I've broken every class down into single target burst, single target damage, damage from dots, AoE damage, AoE burst, defense. This does include things like shields or cloak as some kind of just staying alive, sustain, mobility, utility, self-heal strength, group heal strength, and class identity. I then have a score power at the bottom right that just adds up all of these values, and the bigger the number, the stronger the class is overall, but do take it with a pinch of salt because it doesn't always mean it's the best. And then on the right I have some just key graphs like how easy is it to pick up, the higher it is, the harder it is, how easy is it to master, higher it is, the harder it is, how easy is it to fight against, higher it is, it's hard to fight, easy to fight against, and build variety, so there's lots of all view options. And I've also explained why I'm doing Magicka and Stamina separately over here in the top left. And you can see in the bottom left there's just kind of general rankings for duels, BGs, solo, with just small information there. So that's all the categories, there's labels on there to give you everything you need to know. The general TDLR for this Magicka Sorcerer is, it is very good if the meta is squishy. That is the bottom line. If you're on a platform or you're playing on a server where people are really squishy, they have 20 to 25,000 health, Sorcerer is phenomenal. If you're on a meta where health is 30,000 plus, people are tanky, Sorcerer is really struggling. It has pretty good burst, it has okay single target damage, but beyond that it just doesn't have great stuff. If you go as a pet stalk, you can fix some of this with some better heals from the Twilight Matriarch and also heal allies. You got Negate, but all in all I say Sorcerer is one of the weaker classes. So yeah, I would say Battlegrounds this is where it shines, and in Cyrodiil it's a bit and the bigger the group it's even harder to perform well. As with Stamina Sorcerer, this is kind of similar to Magicka in that it has same sort of woes, but it can use class skills and weapon skills to just support it a bit more. As a result, it has slightly better burst at times, but it's not consistent. So you'll notice that Magicka can get it more consistently, but Stamina could just eke a bit higher with Dawnbreaker and Haunting Curse and Dizzying Swing, but it's trying to line up loads of stars. It's just unlikely. They also have issues with self-heal, but if you go as use Vigor, use Rally, it's somewhat okay. It's a bit weak. The big strength is that they are very fast, so if you move around quickly with 1 or 2 Swift, Hurricane, Ball of Lightning or Streak, and just avoid damage, you can be pretty effective. You will just find finishing kills a bit harder for other classes like Necromancer or Warden. The other thing is that the group utility is pretty lackluster, but all in all that's kind of Sorcerer in a nutshell. We're now getting on to Magicka Dragonite, and this is controversial. I know some people who main Mag DK are like, Dan, it's not busted. And yeah, so putting those people to the side, the one or two of them, Mag DK is still very, very strong, even in Lost Depths and the coming patch. It is a very good class. It has really good burst with Molten Whip and Corrosive Armor. It has really good burst with Leap and Molten Whip. It has really good burst. It has Stamina with Dizzying Swing, Leap, Molten Whip. So you can see DK has really good burst. Its self-heal is the best in the game. Coagulating Blood has 15,000 tooltips plus 30% extra with low health. So it's like 20,000 plus. So what that actually means in reality is you can push your heal, and it's not uncommon to get a 15,000 plus heal with one button. That is basically a burst combo of a Magicka Sorcerer just swallowed up in one go. So a Sorcerer might do 3 or 4 skills to do 15,000 damage, you push one skill and that's it, you've negated all of it. So DKs are very tanky, very in your face, they snare you as they do damage, which does help them in mobility, but all in all, if you want a class that's just in their face and is hard to take down, Magicka DK is very, very good. It's easy to pick up with alt gen builds, it's not hard to master, just whip spam basically, and it's really hard to fight against because it's so tanky with lots of just oh no buttons with big burst heals from Coagulating Blood. Even the Battle Roar passive with the ultimates give them big burst heals too. I've seen 18,000 heals in PvP, which is just crazy. So all in all, very, very good class. You just have a few limitations with the build options. Stam DK is the same as Mag DK, but you can use weapon skills to make it even better. You have access to an Executioner or Whirling Blaze if you wish to use that. You also have access to the Magicka skills like Coagulating Blood for big heals, and you also have the whip, so you can stack the whip and do crazy whip damage. So it's not uncommon to see someone do Dizzying Swing into Leap into Whip, or do Rapid Strikes into Leap into Whip, or they do Rapid Strikes into Fossilize into Whip. So you will see a lot of burst combos with this, and they have the Execute to finish them off. That is the big difference between Stamina and Magicka Dragonite. All in all, both very good classes. I will just add that Stamina DK is slightly harder to pick up because you have to manage your stamina resource a bit more effectively. We then come to Nightblade, and Nightblade is a really weird class. Magicka Nightblade is very hit and miss, literally. With the bombers, is you hit somebody or you don't, and that's it. If you can bomb people well, you can one-shot individuals or groups of people with very little to no counterplay, but you use all of your stats to do that. You build no sustain, you build no defense to just go pure damage. If you go for a more rounded Magicka Nightblade, you will find that you have the single target burst, but because the kit relies you to be using assassination skills and shadow skills and to get armor buffs up, you are in a situation where you kind of have to be spamming cloak or surprise attack. And because you're doing surprise attack, you're in melee range, which then means you're more vulnerable and you don't have a lot of resistances because you're in light armor typically, or a mix of light and heavy. So you become in this really kind of odd place that is not bulky, it's quite squishy, and then it can be killed quite easily, and the burst is very clunky. If you get an in-cap into a spec bow, it's brilliant, but people often roll dodge those. So the burst can be there, if you land it, it's just hit and miss in my opinion. And ranged Magblade is even worse. Stamina Nightblade just does everything Mag Nightblade does, but it's just better. It has way higher burst potential because it's got stamina skills like Executioner to kill people. It also has access to Vigor, it has access to Dizzying Swing. You got loads of just ways to boost your damage with weapon skills doing more than class skills typically. You also have access to Rally, so you get burst heal, you get sustain, so you get healing, so it's pretty well rounded. You'll see as a result that the self-heal goes up a little bit because of Vigor, access to burst heals from Rally. The burst is even higher in my opinion, just because you can do heavy attack from Cloak, which melee weapons give you more weapon and spell damage total than ranged weapons, so that is a factor. But all in all, Nightblades are just your assassins of the game. To go up to somebody, try and burst them down. If you don't, rinse, repeat, try again. That's literally it. I would say that Nightblade is easy to pick up somewhat, but to do anything good on it, you have to have a lot of practice with it. I do stream Nightblade quite often, and I do show it on the channel. I'd also like to show the Stam Nightblade and the Sniper. The Sniper's in red here, and the burst and Sniper over the past couple years has been reduced patch on patch on patch. Currently, the best burst way, just like the Sniper build that I found, is Way of the Fire with anything else. From my testing, when I tested Way of the Fire, Defiler, Scavenging Demise, Order's Wrath, etc, 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 Way of the Fire had the best DPS consistently and the most burst. So if you want to make a sniper, just use Way of the Fire with something else. I will make a video at some point, I just haven't got around to doing it, and there's stuff on Patreon already for those people curious. As for Templar, Magicka Templar is that kind of powerhouse of, in the sense that it's really good at holding its ground and giving good healing to itself and allies. It has really good skills to the point that every skill in the class kit is pretty much, you want it on your bar. There's like, do I have Beam? Do I have Purifying Light? Do I have Sweeps? Do I have Javelin? Do I have the Gap Close? Do I have this? Do I have that? And actually, there isn't enough slots because every skill is really good. So that's really nice for Templar because the build variety is just really high. There's loads of versatility there and it's great. You find the single target burst, if you can charge the Purifying Light or Power of the Light up, is really high, but it can be hit and miss to get that up. You also have probably the best execute in the game currently with just stupid scaling, to the point I have literally used the execute as a spammable and I just spam the execute on people to kill them. That's just how good it is. So Templar is very good at kind of doing everything well, and it's probably stronger than some of the other classes in my opinion in certain situations. If you want a more jack of all trades, good at kind of most things, this is a great class to pick up. And if you master it, it is very, very good. So I would look at someone like Kurioki ESO, I think it's pronounced. He's very good at Templar, so check him out if you want some more details, but Templar's kind of a good all-rounder. We then have Stamina Templar, which basically is the same as Magicka Templar with just a bit more AoE burst, a bit more AoE damage, a bit more healing with Vigor, but people use Vigor on Magicka now, so it's kind of the same. And Stamina will use Magicka heals, so it's kind of the same, but they're kind of very much the same. The only difference is that this just relies on weapon skills much more, like bleeds and dots, for example, so it's a bit, yeah. Personally, I'd just go as a Magplar if I could, because why not? As for Warden, which is our first DLC class, and I know that with the changes to Morrowind being free, some people get this for free, some people don't, it's a bit awkward, but this is a kind of jack of all trades. If you play Magicka Warden well, it is very, very good. The issue is it's hard to master, and I've put two kind of versions of Magicka Warden. There's ranged, which is things like Ice Reach, Cliff Racer, False Pulse, Elemental Weapon. You know, you're trying to kill people from, you know, a distance. Then there's the melee Magicka Warden, which is all about spamming Arterial Burst, which is the vampire spammable, and that has better burst, better damage because it's melee, and yeah. So if you want to have just more success as a Warden, Magicka Warden that is, go as a vampire, go as stage 3, use the vampire spammable, and you would have a much better chance. All in all, there's not much else to say. The healing's good, the defense is really good currently. The single target damage is okay if you can land that 9-second Fissure, which is a bit awkward. Same with AoE burst. So all in all, it's a good class. I'd say it's one of the stronger classes, but it's not the strongest in my opinion. We then come to Stamina Warden, which just takes all of the Magicka just goodness and makes it better. It has probably some of the best burst potential, and I've put it at max because if you land a combo right, you can almost one-shot somebody, if not one-shot squishy people. You got Deep Fissure, Dizzying Swing, Dawnbreaker, you land those and you'll do a crazy amount of damage. So there's a lot of burst there, and you have the execute, which Magicka Warden lacks. That is why this is so much higher, because all of that landing at once with the executioner and roll dodge, you can often one-shot people. So it's a very, very potent class if played well. And the healing and the defense is just crazy because Polar Wind's really good. Arctic Blast heals you and stuns people who try to kill you if they're nearby, so it's really hard to take down. The one thing it does lack is some group heal strength, but you can use the ultimate, which can push us up a bit higher, but you may want to go more Sword and Shield ult just to be a bit more viable yourself. You'll see 2H is generally better for burst. Dual wield is kind of good, it's not as good, but you do have good AoE burst with Dawnbreaker and Spin to Win, so Whirling Blades. Moving on to the next DLC class is the Necromancer. Now Magicka Necromancer has three kind of ways to play it. You have your ranged Magicka Necromancer, which uses things like Blast Bones, Crushing Shock, or Elemental Weapon, for example, and you kind of keep at a distance. Some people would use like Undead Ritualist as a set to make your blast bones hit hard from a distance, and you're just trying to keep away from people. If you do this well and you land blast bones with the max charge, the burst can be really, really high with things like Meteor. Really, really high. It can be hit and miss though. So ranged macro, if you land the burst, it is very, very good. But it's like trying to line up Meteor, trying to line up blast bones with 50% bonus damage because it's been up for ages. You're trying to land then a stun with them so they can eat all of the damage, which is quite hard. So if you get all those lines to line up, it is stupidly high damage, but it often doesn't happen. Most people often go for the melee macro because it's more just consistent. The melee macro uses Vampire Spammable. It uses things like Harmony if you want to have AoE damage from the Graveyard synergy that you can do yourself. And all in all, it's kind of more of a melee based class with how it's played currently. I've seen some ranged macros work very well in duels, but in kind of Cyrodiil and outnumbered fights, they're a bit hit and miss. So all in all, it's kind of a Magicka Warden, if you look here, but just better in every aspect because it's got better burst, it's got a passive execute with the bonus crit chance, it's got better AoE burst with the Colossus, and Blast Bones have an AoE damage, and Scythe if you want to use that. It's got really good group utility with Defiles and just loads of debuffs constantly. So it's a very good class, just hard to master. So just do factor that in. We then come down to Stamina Necromancer, and you can probably gather it's the same as Magicka Warden and Stamina Warden. Magicka Warden's okay, Stamina is just even better. It's the same story. Magicka Necromancer is good, Stamina Necromancer just makes it better. If you want to be a damage dealer, you've got better damage, you've got better AoE burst, you've got better defense, and you've got good healing because you've got access to Vigor, which I know most Magicka builds are using, but I would imagine that will change next patch with the nerf coming to it. All in all though, I think Stamina Necromancer is probably one of the strongest classes in the game currently. If you want to see a good Stamina Necromancer, I would look at Is There No One Else? He is just phenomenal on it. He plays a very slow tanky boy with things like Clever Alchemist. He uses the Sea Serpent's Ring and just charges up, then unleashes loads of burst, and as a result you can one-shot people. All in all, very good class. It's hard to fight against because it's so tanky with the Spirit Guardian. So it's just a very good class with loads of self-heals all the time. Mortal Coil, Ghost healing him, Vigor healing him, it's just mad. I then made two bonus charts, which these are just the Werewolf and the Vampire. So if you were to focus primarily on the Werewolf as a set of skills is pretty good. You're obviously in Werewolf form, so that's max class identity. But you have pretty good single target burst with access to like Heavy Attack, and Howl of Agony is really good. You got access to pretty good dots with Claws of Life. Your self-heal is like the DK self-heal, very, very good. So Werewolf is a tanky boy with good damage. It's not the highest burst like Necromancer, but they're quite hard to fight against because they're so tanky with that really big burst deal. If you were to look at the Vampire skills in isolation as, could I make a Vampire class using mainly these skills and nothing else? The answer is no. The Spammable's okay. The ultimate's pretty garbage, in all honesty. The AoE damage sucks. It has good defense with Undeath. That's probably the best reason to be a Vampire. And the mobility is good with Mist form, but it's a bit hit and miss. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So if you want to be a Vampire, it's kind of, you do it for the defense, you do it for the mobility. The rest of it isn't there. You might only do it for the Spammable if you're on a Warden or a Necromancer. But that's all of the classes really, kind of what's good and what's bad about them on the whole. As you gather, I focus mainly on the positives, what they're good at. You can kind of see the charts for the bad bits. But really quick, because I will get asked, what are the best classes? In my opinion, the best classes for the Lost Depths patch and probably going forward would be Nightblade, Stamina Nightblade particularly, Stamina Warden, Stamina Necromancer, and then Magicka Dragonite. I think these are the strongest classes currently for killing power. They have some of the highest bursts in the game. They have really good survivability with high self-heals or cloak or just getting out of that away or just loads of heal over times. And yeah, they're just very solid classes. I'd then say classes below them are things like Templar, which Magicka Stamina is similar. You then got Magblade. You then have like Magicka Warden, which is a good class. It's just lacks the execute, and the 9-second fish is a bit awkward. And then you have Sorcerer kind of near the bottom because it lacks just killing power in a tanky meta, which we're currently in. So that's kind of what I think of all the classes, kind of where they are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I hope you find this helpful. And if you get any questions about any of these classes or any charts, then do leave the comment down below. It really, really helps. And if you haven't done so already, make sure that you are subscribed so you don't miss out on my future content, where I do plan to share kind of the quick and easy guide to building any character with the best sets in the game that work on anything. So just do stick around for that good stuff. And as always, a huge, huge, huge thank you to all the people on Patreon who help make these videos possible. If you want to support myself and get access to the videos early, extra build support and all that stuff, the details are down below. You don't have to. As much or as little as you can really, really helps. But as I said, you don't have to. I'm going to catch you in the next video or on the next stream. So thanks for watching, guys. Take care. And bye.